Okay, so this video is going to be on the second part of lesson 3, and we essentially have 3 more questions to get through, so it's going to be a really quick part 2. And this is going to now deal with what Piper was saying, what happens if our unknown is in the denominator. Okay, so I'll show you how we're going to do this. So let's do this example here. And label your triangle according to your given angle, give it a set of eyeballs, label everything. Change your, I was going to say change this to an X, but we don't need to. And we could just say, according to 64 degrees, this would be my opposite. The angle, or sorry, the side that they want, which is A, is going to be my hypotenuse. By default, this is my adjacent. I'm going to write SOHCAHTOA so I could figure out which trig ratio I'm using. I then go and I box in my sides. I always start with what I'm looking for, which is that side there. And then I have to choose between the A and the O. I choose a side that gives me a number. It's got to be the A. I can't have 2 unknowns, right? So I'm going to say which trig ratio has A and H. I scan up here, and I'm going to choose cosine. It's the only trig ratio I could use that has A and H. So then I write, okay, the cosine of my given angle is equal to. Now, we're going to start skipping a couple steps, right? So my given angle is 64 degrees, so I'm ready to put that in. And then the step I'm going to skip is I'm not going to write A over H. That's just to help you. If you really need to, you could write it. But A is 7.9. And H goes on the bottom, and H is my unknown, and they said that's the letter A. So now we're solving for the letter A, and A is in the denominator. So what we did in like this previous example, just to quickly show you, if X is on top, we multiply both sides to get X by itself, right? So how are we going to do this if A is on the bottom? There's a quick switch you could do, and the switch is this. This gets switched with A. So A comes out, and the cos of 64 degrees goes in, and then I write A over here. So if ever A is on the bottom, you're going to switch it and say A is equal to 7.9 over the cos of 64 degrees. Essentially what I did is I cross-multiplied in one step. Like if you cross-multiply this and then divide, you would get this answer here. So I just cross-multiplied in one step. A is equal to 7.9 divided by the cos of 64. So 7.9 divided by the cos of 64 degrees. And that is equal to 18.02. And then I need to check, and they wanted it to the nearest tenth of a unit. So what would I round this to if they want it to the nearest tenth? 18.0. Yep, nearest tenth means I need to have it include a decimal. So that answer would be 18.0. So A is equal to 18.0. And then they don't tell me units. So if this was a test question, I'd just write units in. Yes, did I make a mistake? Yes. So you guys, you got to be super careful about that, putting that 0 in. So for example, today the Math 30s had a test. They do all this big, huge calculation. The answer comes out as 2, and the question says you got to give it to me to the nearest tenth. It was a numerical response question. If they didn't bubble in that, they got the mark wrong, even if they put in 2. Yes. It doesn't change the value. It's just rounding, right? If they said to the nearest hundredth, it'd be 18.02. Doesn't change the answer at all. It's just what do they want rounded. The more decimals you include, the more accurate your result is, essentially. So for this guy, it was just 18. 18 would be the answer if I said to the nearest whole number. As soon as I say to the nearest tenth and I need a decimal, 18.0. Jack. honestly, do this switch every time and you will never get it wrong. Okay, so let's do another one. We're going to be doing the exact same thing. The variable is going to be on the bottom. Okay, and then I'll see if that makes sense. No triangle is given, right? So we got to draw the triangle. So what I want you to do is draw yourself a triangle. And we know it's going to be right angled, so give it a right angle. Then I scan through this, and it says they want the triangle to be called PQR, and they say angle PQR is 90 degrees. So how you figure this out is as follows. What they want to be the 90-degree angle is this middle letter here. That's the 90-degree angle, and I'll show you after. So they want the 90-degree angle to be called Q. So Q is going to be here, and that's 90 degrees. Then they say they want one of my angles to be 28 degrees. Okay, so they want angle R to be 28 degrees. So once we have the 90 degree in, it doesn't matter which is R and which is P. So let's put R down here, and let's put P here, because they said, I know that my 90 degree is Q. It really won't matter for these two. But now, if I say that this is R and this is P, then angle R, the middle one, they want to be 28 degrees. So this guy is 28. And PQ is 15.6. I have to put that in correctly, right? So P is here, Q is here. They want this to be 15.6. Okay, so that's how you do this. If they give you 3 letters is equal to an angle, the middle letter is the angle that they want. And then you guys, I want to show you one more way that you could read this at the end. If you start tracing P to Q to R, so just watch this. If I trace P to Q to R, that angle is 90 degrees, right? And I could do the tracing the other way. So look at this one, P to R to Q. So if I trace that, P to R to Q, they want that guy to be 28 degrees. So I first look at the middle one to get what letter they want that to be, and then I could double check by tracing. Okay, so what do they want? Determine to 1 decimal place the length of the hypotenuse. That's where your x goes. The x goes on the hypotenuse. So my x goes there. You got your given angle? Label. Write your SOHCAHTOA. Luke N, what 2 sides do you want me to box in? Yep, hypotenuse and 15.6 get boxed in. And then, sorry, which trig ratio did you say would have sine? Yep, right here. Okay, so let's set this up. The sine of my given angle, what's my given angle? 28 degrees is equal to, sine is O over H. So O is 15.6 and H is what they're looking for. As soon as your letter's on the bottom, you switch this guy with this guy. X is equal to 15.6 over the sine of 28 degrees. X is equal to 15.6 divided by the sine of 28 degrees. I wanted it to the nearest tenth, so my answer would be 33.2, and it was millimeters. Now, there's one other thing I'm going to change out. I'm going to actually delete this x. What do you think they want me to call this? So they called this side PQ. What do you think I'm going to call this side? PR. Yes. At the end of the day, if you wrote on a test x is equal to 33.2 millimeters, you would not lose any marks if you didn't say PR. It's just a good habit to get into, because what's going to happen is we get, I think by the time we get to lesson 5, I'm going to have 2 different triangles stuck together, and you're going to be solving multiple things. So you want to really be able to tell me what side it is we're talking about. Okay? Okay. Use trigonometric ratios to determine the lengths of AB and AC. So now we're finding 2 different sides. Which side do you guys want me to start with? Do you want me to put the x at AB first or at AC first? What are you thinking? Let's start with one side only. AB? Sure. AB, you guys said. That's our x. Label your triangle according to 71 degrees. And we're going to find AB first. This one would be important. You would have to say, if this was a test question, AB is equal to, AC is equal to. Okay, so x would be my opposite. My hypotenuse would be here. And 147 is my adjacent. Because you guys wanted me to solve this side first, that gets boxed in. And then, Denzel, what am I going to box in between H and A? Which one, sorry? A. So between these 2 sides, you would box in the given side, which is A. Okay, SOCA or TOA. Losan, what do you think? Which one am I going to use that has O and A? Tan is correct. Tan of my given angle is equal to, my given angle is 71 degrees. Tan is TOA, which is O over A. O is x, A is 147. X is on top. Kieran, what do I do if x is on top? How do I get rid of that? Like, what do you want me to do here? Yes, that's correct. When x is on top, just say, how do I get rid of that divide by 147? So this answer is 147 times the tan of 71. .9, but they want it to the nearest meter. So what am I going to change that to? 427. Now this is definitely a question. You would not hand this in on a test and say x is equal to 427. Did I make a mistake? Yes. So what I would do is I'd write that, and then either I would erase it, or on the line below I would say AB is 427. Meters, and that guy gets boxed in. Now we have to find our second answer, and they want AC. So here's what I'm going to do. This is why I said it's really good to do this in pencil and an eraser, because now I'm going to change the side I'm looking for to AC. So I'm still going to call it X, or you could call it Y. Like maybe I'll put a Y here because I've already used X up. The reason why I'm erasing is the sides don't change. That's still the opposite. This is still the hypotenuse. This is still the adjacent. But the 2 sides you box in now change. So Ella, what 2 sides would I box in for this one? A is correct and H. And then Ella, what trig ratio? Yes. So the cosine of my given angle, which is 71 degrees, is equal to the adjacent, which is 147, over hypotenuse, which is y. Y is on the bottom. Owen, tell me what I do. Yes. Y is equal to 147 over the cosine of 71 degrees. Punch that into your calculators. And I'm not going to write, what letters do they want this to be called? AC is equal to, what are you guys getting? 452 is the right answer. What's my units? Meters. Okay, let's get more questions circled. That's the end of this lesson, and then I'll give you some time, and then we'll do lesson 4. Number 5, ACD. You guys, can you circle? I'm actually going to add one. Can you circle ACD and F? So number 5, I want you to do ACD and F. Number 6, I want you to do all 3 of those triangles. Number 9 and 10, I want you to circle. And then circle number 11. And we will set up for whatever reason. Let's look at number 10 together. Okay, so here's practice. They don't give you a triangle. And then again, it's going to be a little bit different. So draw yourself a 90-degree triangle. And draw yourself, oh yeah, I remember this question. This is kind of a weird question. Okay, so this time they want 36 degrees. What letter do they want me to, so DEF, okay, so here's why we start this. If you guys have a highlighter, or just you could box this in, triangle DEF is right angled at F. In that sentence, they just told me what letter between DE or F they want my right angle to be. Do you see it? Losan, what is it? It's what one? F is correct. Yep. So triangle DEF is right angled at F. So sometimes you have to like scan the question. They want that guy to be F. Then I told you it doesn't matter once we have that letter in what D is and what E is, right? So I'm going to put D here. I'm going to put E here. So once I get that one that they told me about, that has to be correct. Then they say angle DEF is 36 degrees. Which letter do they now want to be 36 degrees? E. Yep, 36 degrees is this guy here. Then they tell me that they want DF. What does that say just because I wrote over it? Is that 15? Okay, so DF is 15. We can't screw that up, right? We got to put that in the correct spot. So this is 15. The length of DE is, okay, so let's put an X for DE. So DE, so put an X there. Here's how we're going to solve this. Don't even look at these answers here. Don't look at any of them. Let's figure out what the answer is. So let's figure out what DE is. So give your angle a set of eyeballs and say to yourself, okay, 15 would be the opposite. X would be my hypotenuse. This would be my adjacent. From here, Antonio, what 2 sides do you want me to box in? O and H. Yep, so this gets boxed in and this gets boxed in. What trig ratio has the O and the H? Yes, so the sine of my given angle, which is 36 degrees, is equal to O over H. So O is 15 over h is x. Okay, so we're going to calculate what this answer is. So x is on the bottom. I got to do that switch. X is equal to 15 over the sine of 36. And then you look at your answers and you're like, well, wait a second. None of those answers are there. So here's what you do. Let's calculate what this is. 15 over the sine of 36. So 15 divided by the sine of 36 is 25.5. That's what my length has to be. So that side has to be 25.5. So we know that using trig. You are then going to guess and check each one of these, and one of them is going to be the exact same answer. So you guys, the answer I'll show you, it happens to be D, and I'm going to punch this in, 15 divided by the cos of 54, and I'll get that exact same answer. So 15 divided by the cos of 54, and that's the only one. If you check A, B, and C, they will give you totally different answers. So this is a good test question because students at this point, they panic, right? Because they get this, they scan their answers, and they're like, my answer's not there. What did I do wrong? They didn't finish, right? Because if you finished, this would be 25.5, and then you'd be able to find your answer. What the question actually did is this. Do you know how to calculate this angle here? It'd be 180 minus 90 minus 36. So they actually calculated according to this angle, which you don't need to know that right now. That's going to be in a different lesson, but that's what they did. So you would be able to find it just with the knowledge that you have. Okay, so you guys could finish off that lesson, and I'll give you maybe 20 minutes, and then we'll start on lesson